Hello, math students. This quick little lesson is meant for those of you who need a little bit more with word problems with fractions, particularly just figuring out how do you determine what type of problem you're dealing with. You read the problem and is it an addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division problem? So I'm going to go through a couple keywords or phrases you can look for, and I'll show you one example of each word problem type. So our first one that we would be looking at are word problems that involve addition. Addition word problems are pretty easy, I think, to figure out. Oftentimes you're going to see something that might say like in total. So you've got multiple items that within the word problem, then it asks you for how much are they in total or all together. You might even be lucky and have a word problem that really gives you a hint by saying the word like sum. But anytime you're putting something together, looking for the total, or increasing something, those are ways, another one, combined, when you're combining things. Those are ways to tell that you have an addition word problem. The example that I have for you says this. 2 large pizzas were purchased for a movie night. The people at the party ate 3/8 of one pizza and a quarter of another pizza. How much pizza was eaten at movie night? Now, in this particular word problem, there aren't any of those phrases directly stated. However, you could change this question. How much pizza was eaten in total, all together? What is the sum of all the pizza? Or if you combined the pizza together? All of those things don't change this problem, and that is what it's asking. It's asking for the total. So the first pizza, you ate 3/8 of it. The second pizza, you ate a quarter of it. This is totally an addition word problem. So if you see a problem like this, you're adding your fractions together, and then you'd go forth and you'd add like you normally would. In your subtraction word problems, that's the second type we're going to look at. For subtraction, a very, very popular word is the difference. So you're talking about two things. It says, what's the difference between these two things? That indicates subtraction. You might also have something that says like take away. Another popular one is how much less or how many less. But subtraction, like addition, I think it's pretty easy to figure out those ones. Subtraction words all kind of sound the same. Minus, less than, reduced, take away, how much remains. If you see any of those words, you're probably going to be subtracting. And here's an example. You've got 2 different types of cookie recipes. You've got a sugar cookie recipe, and that calls for 1.5 cups of sugar. And then you have a peanut butter cookie, one of my favorite recipes, and that calls for 2/3 of a cup of sugar. How much more sugar is in the one than the other? The sugar cookie recipe needs 1.5 cups of sugar. Peanut butter only needs 2/3. How much more? Well, you're looking for the difference between the two. This is a subtraction word problem. I could have also asked, what's the difference between the amounts of sugar in the 2 recipes? That would also mean subtraction. All right, our next type, this one you might want to put a little star by, because this one can sometimes be a little confusing. But for multiplication, I'm going to start with one thing in particular that I hope that you look for in a word problem. Anytime you see the word of, there's a chance you have a multiplication word problem. Now, don't go crazy and just say, oh, this problem has the word of in it, I'm going to multiply, because it's not just the word of. More specifically, you're looking for a problem where it has some fraction of some amount. So let's say you're reading through a problem and it's basically asking you like, what is 1/5 of 32? If you see a problem that's like this, the way that you could solve this is by multiplication. When you see the word of in this context, a fraction of something, of means multiply, And so you would set up a multiplication problem to get to your final answer. Now there's a couple other things that could mean multiply. You might see where you have something that is increased by. So if something's increased by something, that might mean multiply. I'm also going to give another one that it's not a word, but a concept. If you're reading a problem and you think to yourself, I could solve this using repeated addition, meaning you read a problem and you say, I could just keep adding the same number over and over and over again. If you ever have to repeatedly add something, another way to solve that is to multiply. We can look at an example of that in this video, actually. So the multiplication problem first that I have is an example of where of means multiply. At a charity marathon, 2/3 of the student population at a school participated. There are 1,200 students at the school. How many participated? Well, what this question is really asking you is, what is 2/3 of the school? And it actually tells us the amount of people in the school is 1,200. So what this question is asking us is this. What is 2/3 of the total 1,200 students? Because I have a fraction of something, I could treat this as a multiplication problem. 2/3 times 1,200. And that would lead me to my correct final answer. I'm asking for a part of something else, and I can multiply to get there. A repeated addition problem, there was one in the practice that we did where it said something about a satellite, and it can go around the Earth 4 times every day. And it does this for 6.5 days. So 4 times a day for 6.5 days. You could do 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 and add that 6.5 times. Or, because it's repeated addition, you could simply just do 4 times 6.5 and get to your final answer the same way. So there's two things that would be multiplication, looking for a total of something. The last type of problem obviously would be division. Personally, I think division is probably the easiest to figure out, but it can be a little tricky. What you need to remember with division is you are going to be given a total. I'll write this down. You're given a total, and you're looking for a part. So before you go and say, this is division, make sure that whatever problem you're dealing with, you're starting with the total amount of something, and you're trying to find a part. And some division words that you'll see, break into. You might even just simply see the word divide. Sometimes you'll see like something going into groups. You might cut something in half. When you cut something in half, you're dividing by 2. Let's see. Anything that talks about breaking into, cutting something up, something going into pieces, all of those things mean division. And so my example problem, Brian cuts a 90-inch long rope into pieces that are 3/4 inch long. So since he's cutting things into pieces, he's dividing. He's taking the 90-inch long rope and dividing it into 3/4 inch long pieces. And so this would be your division problem to figure out how many 3/4 inch pieces of rope he can create from a 90-inch long rope. Now, this is not every and all word problem, but it should be hopefully enough to get you started in the right direction as you review fraction word problems. As always, reach out if you have any questions, and good luck. See ya.